good morning, everybody, and sorry for this little hiccup in the beginning of the presentation. It's an honor for me to be in this webinar to present to you the European strategy to the hydrogen economy. It all started, in 2020, or you could even say it started a bit earlier in 2019 when the EU adopted its Green Deal. And as part of the European Green Deal in 2020, the EU presented its hydrogen strategy, which is a comprehensive framework to support the uptake of renewable and low-carbon hydrogen in the EU. The strategy had a set of 20 key actions. I will not go into the details of all those key actions, but as a flagship from 2020 to 2024, we announced to support the installation of at least 6 gigawatt of renewable hydrogen electrolyzers in the EU and the production of up to 1 million tons of renewable hydrogen. And then in the medium term, we envisaged to become for hydrogen to become an intrinsic part of our integrated energy system and to have at least 40 gigawatt of renewable hydrogen electrolyzers and the production of 10 million tons of hydrogen domestically in the EU by 2030. And then from 2030 onwards, renewable hydrogen should be deployed at large scale across all hard to decarbonize sectors in the EU. Of course, a lot has happened since 2020, since our first hydrogen strategy was published, and so we had to go through a pandemic, lockdowns, economic downturns, followed by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And the Commission's response to it was the Repower EU plan, where we are also aiming at unlocking the renewable hydrogen potential, where trying to accelerate our clean energy transition. So what happened? The Repower EU plan increased our targets for renewable hydrogen by 2030. So the new targets would be 10 million tons produced in the EU and 10 million tons of hydrogen imported to, on the one hand, decarbonize the transport sector, decarbonize the industrial processes, but also used for feedstock, and then also for hydrogen to play an essential role in the future grid. So how are we going to get there? Or maybe first of all to say that, of course, it's easy maybe to announce a target, but it's still a long way to go. So 20 million tons of hydrogen corresponds to 160 to 200 gigawatt of electrolyzer output capacity and 300 gigawatt to 400 gigawatt of renewable capacity. Today we have less, or in 2023, we had less than 400 megawatt of electrolyzer capacity installed worldwide and only 160 megawatt capacity in the EU. And the annual electrolyzer manufacturing capacity was 7 gigawatt in 2020. So we know the potential is high, but the road to unlock it is still long. And we have still a lot to be done in the EU. That's why in 2022, the European Commission's president, Ursula von der Leyen, in her State of the Union speech, announced the European Hydrogen Bank initiative. The European Hydrogen Bank would address both our ambitions on imports as well as the domestic market creation, with 2 new financing mechanisms to support renewable hydrogen production within the EU and internationally. Despite its name, the European Hydrogen Bank is not a bank per se, it's not a physical institution, but it is essential to reinforce, our financing streams in the EU and globally. The objectives of the renewable hydrogen are threefold. It's, as I said, to support the uptake of renewable hydrogen within the EU as well as imports. It also aims to unlock private investments in hydrogen value chains by connecting the renewable energy supply to demand and then also addressing initial investment challenges. and it will create an emerging European hydrogen market, offer growth opportunities and jobs, and then also help us reach the goals that I just set out. To go more into the details, what is the architecture of the European Hydrogen Bank? So the European Hydrogen Bank has a domestic leg and an international leg. For the international leg, we would set up a green premium auction for renewable hydrogen imports. The intention is to cover the cost gap between renewable hydrogen produced in third countries and transported to the EU and the fossil fuels it can replace. For this instrument, the Commission is currently exploring possible sources of funding within the EU budget and also a partnership with, for example, the European Investment Bank. The domestic leg, and that is what I will in the next minutes focus on, is also a green premium auction under the EU Innovation Fund. We are launching this auction at the end of this month on the 23rd of November. And we are all looking with interest into the potential bids that come our way. Transparency and coordination is also one of the important pillars of the European Hydrogen Bank. We will be able to assess demand. We will also track hydrogen flows. We will be able to get more information on infrastructure needs and hydrogen cost data as well through those initiatives. And of course, there's a lot, or there are many links with existing European financing instruments. I just already mentioned the Innovation Fund that is actually financing the domestic hydrogen auctions, but also programs like Invest EU or structural funds provide synergies with the European Hydrogen Bank initiatives, and then also is existing international financing instruments like concessional loans, blending and guarantees will support the international leg of the Hydrogen Bank. Well, the Hydrogen Bank will play a coordination role and facilitate the blending. It will de-risk hydrogen projects and allow us to maximize private capital leverage, and then also increase the confidence of investors. As I said, it will increase the transparency on flows, on costs, and support the infrastructure planning. I mentioned the Innovation Fund. The Innovation Fund is financing the domestic leg of the Hydrogen Bank, on which I will go into details just now after that. But I also want to mention it because it's actually a funding tool that we have that is through grants already financing deployment of hydrogen projects across the EU. So it's a program that is financed by the proceeds of the EU emissions trading system. There's an estimated budget of 40 billion euros up until 2030 that is available. It's not only financing hydrogen, but it's financing innovative projects in energy-intensive industries, renewables, batteries, carbon capture and storage, and net zero mobility and buildings. It's quite an important instrument because, well, it's one of the world's largest funding programs, and it's not funding R&I, but it's really funding the stage between a technology that is already mature, but that is not yet market ready. And we do have quite many projects that are funded through grants already in the area of hydrogen. And now the auctions, also supported or funded by the Innovation Fund, are coming on top of these grants under the Innovation Fund. Going more specifically into the auctions, why are we doing these auctions for renewable hydrogen? Well, first of all, auctions are a cost-efficient, market-based instrument to provide financial support. Again, we aim to de-risk projects and maximize leverage of private capital, which is best done through such an auction mechanism. But it will also allow us price discovery and market formation. So what is actually the price of a kilo of hydrogen in this nascent market, we will see those price points and discover them as we see the bids under this first pilot auction that's going to be launched. And of course, the hydrogen auctions are a relatively lenient way to provide the support, which will reduce the administrative burden that is often perceived as too complex. The auctions in a nutshell, what are we going to do? So we have a budget of 800 million euros from the Innovation Fund. We will auction renewable hydrogen, so RFNBO hydrogen in the sense of the definition of the Delegated Act of the Renewable Energy Directive. The support will be provided in form of a fixed premium in euros per kilogram of renewable hydrogen produced over a period of 10 years. The bids will be ranked on price, so the budget will be allocated to the projects with the lowest specific support requirements, so the lowest price bid. It's a pay-as-bid auction, so if you bid €1 per kilogram of hydrogen, but the clearing price is at €3, then you will be awarded €1 per kilogram of hydrogen, as this is what you bid. It's output-based support upon verified and certified production of RFNBO volumes, so there's not going to be any payment before entry into operation, and the maximum realization period for the projects is 5 years. As you can see, or you saw already on the previous slide, of course, there are some non-awarded bids, and I'll give you a bit of a look into the future because we are, of course, depending on the success of these auctions, looking at the next steps, and there is potential to expand the auctions and as a service for member states. So what we are discussing is to have a window that is called auctions as a service, whereby member states can provide additional budget and clear lowest bids from their own member state only until the national budget is exhausted. So anything that we will not be able to finance from the European budget, member states could finance, and that kind of award of financing is subject to state aid control. Of course, member states who are not contributing cannot award their national bids. And if, or in case we see that the auction is a success, of course, the concept can also be further extended to other products, or or we can have another round with a higher budget, but that remains to be assessed based on the outcome of this first pilot auction to be launched on the 23rd of November. Finally, of course, well, the picture is much better now, but there are still some challenges ahead. We still have to finalize some of the policies, in particular the hydrogen and gas decarbonization package. We will also continue to deploy the infrastructure, and there's the Connecting Europe facility that will help us contribute to that. And then the investments have also to be finalized, so we need to make sure that projects move to final investment decisions, because for the majority of project that is still pending, and we hope that we can make an important contribution with these auctions to incentivize taking these final investment decisions.